The last couple of days, I've been waiting to talk about this new model that has been the talk of the town. This model is called Reflection, and this model has made big claims, bold claims, completely new way of creating LLMs. But now there is a twist in the story. So in this video, we're going to learn about a reflection and my a little bit of skepticism around the model and also the controversy around this model. The controversy to start with, if you're here for the controversy, I would like outright say that a lot of people claim that this model is just a wrapper around Claude, especially on OpenRouter, which I don't believe to be true. This is an open model. The creator of the model has claimed to open source and open weight the model, the dataset and everything, created using synthetic dataset on a platform called Glaive. I've used Glaive, amazing platform. So I don't have the skepticism that this model is actually Claude wrapper. So if you're here for that rumor, that is out of the way. But what I have doubts is about the model's capabilities. But before we start with the doubt about model's capability, so on September 6th, Matt Schumer announced that there is a new model. He's been hyping it before this. This new model is called Reflection 70 billion parameter model. And the start headline itself is that this is the world's top open source model. This has been trained using something called reflection tuning, a technique that they have developed to fix their own mistakes. I'm also going to show later in this video that this technique is not completely new, or at least the way I perceive this technique, it's not completely new. So this is a paper that we have covered before, but that's for later. So 405 billion parameter is coming next week, and they expect it to be the best model in the world. This is built with Glaive. Like I said, Glaive is an amazing platform. Now, in terms of benchmark, one thing that caught everybody's eyes is that Reflection 70 billion parameter model, not 405, 70 billion parameter model, got 99.2% on zero shot on GSM 8K. Now, GSM 8K is this dataset that is high school math dataset. So what they're claiming is that Reflection 70 billion parameter managed to solve 99% of high school math. If you were to interpret that the benchmark is the reflection of the population, not just the sample. So some stats there. Now they've compared it with the Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which is like mind-blowingly good. Everybody loves this model. Claude 3.5 Sonnet is 96%. On math, this is 79%. On human eval, this is 91%, while Claude 3.5 Sonnet is 92%. And these benchmarks, as you can see here, this is like pretty close to what could be the best model ever. This happened on September 6th. And there are like bunch of information. And Matt Schumer is not a new person to this domain, and I've liked this works before. Like for example, Hyperwrite is an amazing platform. I guess they use Playwright, I'm not sure, but it's an amazing platform. So there are a bunch of things about this model, and one of the important thing if you see here with this model is the model has a special tokens, and this is something that we have discussed before on this channel that we have seen with Anthropic as well. One thing that they do is they have these special tokens. I think Andre Karpathy has mentioned about GPT-4o. You have got these special tokens that help the model take different routes. For example, how do you think an OpenAI model would know that now they have to generate image or now they have to do, let's say, web search? There is a special token there. I mean, there are multiple ways to do that, but there is a special token. So all these models, technically they're next word prediction engines. Okay, let's be clear about it. They're not AGI. They're not like self-sustaining LLMs. They're not any of these things. Those are good for viral videos, but let's be honest to ourselves. They just beautifully predict the most accurate way, most precisely the next word. And as part of this, they're really good at understanding the pattern. That's why they're good with programming. That's why they are good with a lot of other things. In fact, one of the reasons Flux models work really well is because Flux is part diffusion, part transformer. Now coming to a pure LLM, large language model. So this kind of token, when you train the model with these kind of tokens, the model also learns the tokens. And that is how the special tokens are embedded within the model. And that is one of the reasons why when you train the model with COT dataset, chain of thought dataset, the models tend to be better because you do not have to now just use prompt engineering for the model to think or use chain of thought, but you are literally training the model with chain of thought. That is one of the reasons a lot of people use synthetic data. And we have seen this with the Math Olympiad. We have seen this multiple cases that when you have a really good handcrafted data set that you are very clear about how the model wants to learn. The model learns that, and ultimately you tend to have a better model. Now, how is it better is a different question altogether. Right now, the way we measure something as better is using these benchmarks. Mostly people have a vibe check, but mostly these benchmarks. And one of the complaints that we have always seen, we have always received is the benchmark leaking, and also the comparison and difference between, let's say, a normal model versus a model trained with COT data, a chain of thought data set, and a normal prompting versus chain of thought prompting. This was a controversy when Google Gemini was launched. Now, having said this, these tokens would be extremely helpful. But now, what is the skepticism that people started having? Okay, first of all, the model is amazing. Okay, based on like the face value of the model, quite amazing, really good. I like the word reflection tuning, a new technique, and all these things. Now, in terms of the model structure in itself, you can see there is a thinking special token, there is a reflection special token. All these are really good. Now, the controversy started when people could not reproduce the quality of the model. For example, when they uploaded the open weights model for 70 billion parameter model, a lot of people could not get it to use effectively. That's the first problem. So there is an open weight that performs pretty bad, and there is a model behind API that is doing pretty good. So this creates some kind of disparity, and people started speculating that there is something wrong with the model. So even though it could be like normal token issues, a lot of time when people upload open weights, we don't realize that how difficult it is. Sometimes there is some files going wrong, there is a different precision level, a lot of things go behind the scene. So it could be naturally possible that something, let's say, benefit of the doubt, something has gone wrong. The model itself is good, but now more problems started coming into picture. So one is people started wondering whether this model is actually chain of thought. So in fact, I did a poll. Polls don't mean anything, but I did a poll to understand whether this is a state of the art technique or this is just chain of thought on steroids. And a lot of people said this is chain of thought with steroids. So one person who is very popular in this particular space, who runs also the AI engineer conference, he says, I think match humors and reflection is an incredible achievement, but it also exposes an alarming flaws in the current evil culture. Okay, this is not any of those things. First of all, this is not something like completely out of the box, strawberry, star, all those things. A model with hard-coded COT, COT stands here for chain of thought, is going to do better in benchmarks than one without. But that isn't necessarily what we want. I think this is something that we need to get out of the way. Okay, this is the same issue that we had with Google Gemini. And this is the thing that we need to understand. We need a model that can better reason rather than a model that has been trained with COT dataset. These are, I think, two different things. It might be like the same thing based on how you think. So when you tell a model to think step by step, you want the model to have the capability to think step by step rather than having the hard-coded data set that lets the model think step by step. I mean, in my mind, these are two different things. Let me know in the comment section if it is the same thing. In Olympics parlance, we essentially comparing natty models with a performance enhanced model here. Okay, there is a bunch of information. I don't want to go into it. So 2 weeks ago, we already saw a divergence between chat tuned and instruction tuned model from OpenAI, more on upcoming latent space pod. So chat tuned is like a model that is tuned for a conversation. Instruction tuned is a model that has been tuned to follow instruction. But for this particular post, you can see that somebody, especially one of the creators of this model, or probably the actual creator of the model, says it's not. We talked about this a bit on Matthew Berman's podcast today. Essentially, we categorize prompts into easy, hard, and we only train it to spend a lot of tokens thinking for hard prompts. I don't exactly understand what does it mean, but the point here is that they don't necessarily do like full COT on steroids, and a lot of people claim, like including myself, that it is COT on steroids. Like hard-coded COT feels like overfitting. As you disagree with characterization, I hesitated because I don't actually, in fact, know if that's the entire data set. Anyways, point here is that there is a COT element, there is a dataset element, and this is a synthetic dataset. So this is a common thing that people have started doing these days. Like they use synthetic data set and then they try to train the model with that or fine tune the model, and then they get a benchmark update. Now that's not where the controversy actually ends. Now the controversy builds up furthermore. So, okay, what is this? Now, understanding AI benchmarks GSM 8K. The problem, this is a real problem that we should reflect on. Okay. The reflection llama model was released 2 days ago, achieving higher metrics on several popular benchmarks when you compare. Notably, the post claimed that model reached a score of 99.2% on GSM 8K. Since then, there has been a heated discussion regarding the score on GSM 8K. Some of the comments. Okay, so 99.2 performance on GSM 8K, even though GSM 8K has more than 1% error rate. So we know that MMLU is a completely crappy benchmark. Even though companies still code MMLU, we know MMLU is a problem. I have discussed a paper on the channel where if you just change the order of the multiple choice question, MMLU does it bad. Like that, there are a lot of issues with MMLU. Like this, there are always issues with benchmarks. Now, what people have figured out that if you have 100 questions on GSM 8K, it already inbuilt has 1% error rate. Okay, you've got 100 math questions and 1% of answers that GSM 8K claim that a right answer itself is wrong. So the data set itself is 99% pure. Now, here comes reflection 70 billion parameter model and claims that it has got 99.2% accuracy on GSM 8K. Now, if I tell you that out of, let's say, 100 currency notes that I've got, one is wrong, and then you tell me that you have created a machine that has already figured out that 99.2% of these notes are correct, only 0.8% is wrong. Now, I would immediately call you out saying that the machine that you have created is completely bogus because it in fact is using the error, the mistake in my data set, in my currency, and then assumes that it is correct. So there is no way that the machine could be good. That's basically, what you do in science. So that is what people are saying. On GSM 8K, 98% is better than 99%. This is super interesting, but I'm quite surprised to see a score of over 99%. There are all these tweets are linked in the YouTube description for you to discuss. What does this discussion mean? It's this data set. It has got 8,500 questions. It was designed to facilitate research and all those things. There is a structure, education level and all these things. And they have talked about this example where the actual answer was different from what GSM 8K claimed to be the right answer. So if there is a model that claims to be 99.2% on GSM 8K, is it possible? If that is the case, is that model a good model? This is the second sort of question. And now the third sort of question that we have is at the website where they have got Hyperbolic Labs. They are currently hosting reflection llama based on the weights on Hugging Face. So there is an issue with the weights in itself. So that has to be updated. Once that has been updated, Artificial Analysis, which is an independent body that has been doing a lot of research in this particular space, will make an update. Okay, what is their statement? Artificial Analysis, reflection 70 billion quick update and the timeline. So we tested the initial reflection 70 billion release. It saw a worse performance than Llama 3.1 70 billion. They took the initial open weights model, tested the model, and they found a worse performance than Llama 3.1 70 billion. Now, this has been the case by a lot of other people. So I don't know if this is the place. Daniel Han, somebody who respect. Congratulations to Daniel. Unsloth has been selected into Y Combinator this year. I'm very happy for them. Anyways, Daniel Han, who's the co-founder of Unsloth, said that I tried calling both open weights and the API, which is now broken. The uploaded weights definitely seem worse qualitatively. Okay, so this is quite clear at this point. The weights do not translate into quality. So I don't know if it is a configuration issue, if it is a precision issue, if there is something wrong, that it is not going good. We were given access to a private API, which we tested and saw impressive performance, but not to the level of initial claims. So what artificial analysts say is that even the paid API that is behind, let's say, some kind of a wall is not as good as what they initially claim. And this is for the 70 billion parameter model. As this testing was performed on a private API, we were not able to independently verify exactly what we were testing. Because when you are behind API, the biggest problem right now with all the API providers for LLM is that they want to cut cost. So you don't know whether it is a quantized model. You don't know whether it is the not quantized like actual model, but what precision, FP8, int8, FP16. You don't know any of those things. Like it's all, you understand something is happening. I mean, there are some providers who are trying to be transparent about it, but you do not have any idea until somebody explicitly tells you. Since then, There have been additional HF releases, Hugging Face releases, which some providers hosted. The latest version appears to be, we are seeing a significantly worse result when benchmarking the latest one than what we saw via private API. So the latest open weight model is further bad. Outstanding questions. We are not clear why a version would be published which is not the version we tested. Why the disparity? Why the mismatch? We are not clear why the model weights of the version we tested would not be released yet, because that's already in the private API. So as soon as the weights are released on Hugging Face, we plan to retest and compare to our evaluation and of the private endpoint. This is all the facts that I've put in front of you from people that I know people are discussing. So in my opinion, I'm not sure what is happening in this model. At least like I'm not testing this model because it doesn't make sense to test this model when you have got a lot of disparity. But I thought like you should all know, because everybody's been talking about this model, you should know what is happening with the model. The latest, like the craziest claim about this model also comes from a very credible person. McKay Wrigley is quite popular. His cursor course is crushing. He's built amazing demos since the start of like GPT-4o. I've seen a really great programmer or hacker, let's say. The free version on OpenRouter is 100% just an API wrapping Claude. This is the latest claim, and then a lot of people on Reddit are trying to give data around like why that is the case. They're showing proofs that the OpenRouter model, the API model, actually tries to mask any word that is related to Claude. So this is the latest claim. I don't believe this is true. This is my stand again. I believe that they have really cooked something good, but maybe the claims are like far-fetched. Maybe the claims are too good to be true, and maybe that is why they're struggling. It could have been a good model, but generally, in my experience, what I started feeling these days is that there is a constant hunger, there's a constant fire to beat the benchmark, and somehow I still feel I've made videos about this before. I don't feel this is healthy. One, we need probably new benchmarks. Two, we need the new way to evaluate benchmarks. Three, I think the constant need to beat the benchmark. There is a famous quote: when your measure becomes your goal, it's not a measure anymore, because you're using it as goal. You want to hit it, you want to beat it. It's not healthy. Now, having said all these things, now because everybody's thinking that this is a new cutting edge technology, I would like to very quickly show you this paper that probably we would have covered on this channel. I'm not sure, but I've read this paper before. Think before you speak. Training large language models with pause tokens. It doesn't have multiple tokens. It just has like one token, which is pause token, not reflection token, not thinking token. But I remember seeing another paper, but somehow I could not find that paper at this point. So what they do with this is they have a new token that they have introduced, and it's called a pause token. And with the pause inference, you can see that this model already, one of the things is, we find that on a variety of downstream tasks, training the model with pause tokens during both pre-training and downstream fine-tuning exhibits clear gains compared to standard end-to-end training and inference. Most notably, for the 1 billion model in the squad extractive question and answering task, this approach improves exact match score by 18%. Just introducing pause tokens, they got 18% bump in the benchmark. Similarly, we observe 8% gains on general understanding of common sense QA and 1% accuracy gain on reasoning tasks of GSM-8K over the model standard model's 7.5% accuracy. And this is just 1 billion parameter model. So simply introducing a new token, if it can increase the model's accuracy from 7% to 8% for a 1 billion parameter model, for a 70 billion parameter model, the scale of the impact could be huge. Now, how does it translate into real life impact, IRL impact? That is a question I think everybody's been exploring. Either way, I think this is a good model. One of the reason why I also decided to make this video is, not deep seek in this. One of the reason why I also decided to make this particular video here is that the model and what is happening here with this once again emphasizes the importance of open weights. I mean, license is one thing, like we are not calling it open source at this point, but the entire discussion around this model, the quality of the model, the comparison, the model's COT, non-COT, and all these things are happening only because the model is open weight. And I should definitely appreciate Matt Schumer. I don't know, Matt Schumer is not going to see this video, But I'm definitely appreciating Matt Schumer for pulling this off and then releasing the model as open weight, because had it been a closed model, they would have probably raised $5 billion funding and we wouldn't have never known what is happening behind the model. But they've put it out for everybody to test it, everybody to evaluate, everybody to scrutinize. And I think that is what the community wants. That is what the LLM world and the AI world wants. So congratulations to Matt and also Sahil to making this possible. And we will see what is going to happen with this model. So once I have some concrete information, I will share all the details in a follow-up video. Until then, see you in the next video. Happy prompting.